Please subscribe.
The new 2019 Honda Insight mixture vehicle takes its looks from the Accord and rides on a casing acquired from the Civic. None of that seems like a terrible thing to us. The Insight procures a 7.0 in general gratitude to its great mileage, agreeable inside, and amazing well-being rating. Honda authorities state that the Insight is the initial move toward the automaker's bigger system for ZAP, yet we consider it to be a last advance for future little vehicles that will be the standard. It begins with the Insight's looks, which don't shout something besides minimal car. The initial 2 H's of the Insight were take a gander at me mixtures. The primary was a two-entryway hatchback shaped total with wheel covers, and the second was an egg-formed Prius warrior with Prius-like looks. The 2019 Insight is more developed than both, and mitigates a portion of the current Civic's search for a preservationist take. It obtains some from the Accord, as well, including the helpful touchscreen, and outwits the two Guardians qualities. Think Ben Stiller, not Martin Sheen. In the engine is a 1.5-liter inline-4 and electric engine combo that makes 151 torque and drives the front wheels as it were. It's not especially quick, yet the Insight is very eco-friendly. Our adding machines figure join mileage around 55 miles per gallon, superior to the EPA's assessments. The ride is smooth and made, albeit to some degree loud on occasion. Crash tests have demonstrated it's safe, and the 2019 Insight comes standard with dynamic security highlights incorporating forward impact admonitions with programmed crisis braking, dynamic path control, and programmed headlights. In spite of the fact that the Insight begins at under $24,000 for a base LX variant, we see the most incentive in the lineup with the Insight X. It offers a 8.0-inch touchscreen, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto similarity, 16-inch wheels, an advanced instrument group, Honda's telematics, and fabric upholstery. The Insight Touring begins at almost $29,000, which is more than the more roomy Accord hybrid model that we'd prescribe to fair-size purchasers. Its reality is generally because of the Civic, however the 2019 Honda Insight's look sought to be credited to the Accord. Neither one of those is an awful thing. We get that numerous customers see themselves in tall-riding hybrids more than 4-entryway vehicles these days, however we simply wish that they'd perceive how far gorgeous cars like the Insight have come. We give it a 7 out of 10 for good looks, all around. The Insight doesn't get much from the Civic's wardrobe, just the roofline and wheelbase is basic among the two vehicles. Rather we see the Honda midsizer in the Insight's nose and tail, which Honda says will speak to a marginally more seasoned group than the Civic. Think 30-somethings rather than 20-year-olds. The Insight's bends are tamer than the Civic's, as well, with less wrinkles at the edge and a progressively upstanding nose. The wheel curves are progressively smooth on the Insight, maybe a cap tip ought to go to the Mazda 6 there. Inside, the Insight avoids the Civic's disappointing touchscreen and control design for one culled from the Accord, Toto with a volume handle. The Insight sports a low run that helps outward vision, Civic, and computerized show that is utilitarian and straightforward. Not at all like the spicier Civic, the Insight leaned towards a milder way to deal with feel and shading plans. The 2019 Honda Insight's little motor and battery combo are stock in exchange for productivity compacts inside and out. Execution takes a secondary lounge. We wouldn't fret a lot, there's a lot of extra space to move around. The Insight rides easily without dirtiness and returns note for the efficiency, even with our substantial ride feet. Beginning from a normal score, we deduct a point for its absence of enthusiasm yet give it directly back for an equipped ride. It wins a 5 out of 10. By the numbers, the Insight is controlled by 1.5-liter inline-4 that makes 107 drive matched to a 129-horsepower electric engine. The consolidated yield is 151 horsepower and 197 pound-feet of torque, in spite of the fact that Honda's way to deal with mixture powertrains might be fairly new to customers. The alleged two-engine half-and-half framework principally utilizes the electric engine and battery for drive, not the gas motor. In specific situations, the battery electric engine can control the Insight without the gas motor by any stretch of the imagination, or each of the three can grip together to drive the front wheels. That game plan generally skirts the requirement for any sort of ordinary transmission programmed or persistently factor programmed, and to a great extent consigns the gas motor to function as an electric generator under most conditions. The recognizable distinction for most drivers might be that quickening and the gas motor movement may not be legitimately corresponding. Now and again, the motor could be busier than anticipated, striving to give recover capacity to the half-and-half framework. At different occasions, the motor may appear to be excessively loose. The crossbreed framework has enough capacity to work without the inline four. In any regard, the Insight is a tick more slow than different vehicles out and about, generally in accordance with other moderate half-breeds, for example, the Toyota Prius. Our casual testing pegged 0 to 60 miles per hour speeding up around 10 seconds, however 0 to 30 miles per hour is somewhat more great around town than that figure would show. In passing or climbs, the Insight is all the more restful provincial. Two-path interstate passes may require some early arrangement. The Insight is furnished with EV, Sport, and Econ modes that typically sway execution, in spite of the fact that Sport mode feels strange here. In our testing, tipping the Insight into Sport made the throttle peppier and the motor fire up higher, also pipe in some pointless motor sounds into the lodge, however didn't make the vehicle any quicker. Exchanging over to Econ mode loosens up the throttle reaction, yet didn't appear to push the vehicle into all-electric mode anything else than typical. We've discovered that the Insight is best when worked without micromanaging. Fire the vehicle up and go. Handle presented a heavier than ordinary kickdown switch. Around 25% of the throttle is past a substantial detent that appeared to be unbalanced, so a casual mentality is best with the Insight. Knowledge ride in dealing with the Insight benefits by imparting the vast majority of its auxiliary parts to the Honda Civic, including a McPherson front suspension arrangement and multi-connect back suspension. The Insight gets the best-in-class liquid-filled bushings from the Civic that tempers street conduct such that other minimized autos to a great extent don't have spending plan for. Base and X trim levels get 16-inch wheels with greater sidewalls that have more give, yet our turns in the driver's seat of touring variants with 17-inch wheels were a long way from particular. The Insight guides well, in spite of the fact that its stick directing wheel alludes to a sportier crucial the vehicle conveys. Large, 11.1-inch rotors in advance capture the Insight certainly, consistently exchanging among contact and regenerative braking without issue. Honda engineers have discovered a to some degree fascinating use for the Civic's directing wheel-mounted door shifters. They navigate 3 degrees of regenerative braking power in the Insight in a bewildering way. Dialed into their most forceful rugged setting, the Insight still won't be a one-pedal driver for most proprietors. That might be frustrating to some prepared green vehicle customers. Disregard the crossover powertrain altogether and the 2019 Insight exceeds expectations at being a conservative vehicle. It should, like the Civic from which it's based, the Insight has moderate size measurements inside. We state 4 grown-ups can ride inside the Insight's limits, however 5 is excessively. The rearward sitting arrangement's not up to the head or extra space to move around task. There's sufficient space for payload and the Insight's batteries don't interrupt into the bundle. We give it a 6 for comfort. By the numbers, the Insight offers 112.7 cubic feet of room inside, including 15.1 cubic feet for the storage compartment. The front seats are steady and agreeable, however ride a little lower than some may anticipate. There's a lot of headroom in advance for the longest middles at 39.3 inches, and long legs should fit fine and dandy too with 42.3 inches. A moonroof doesn't cut a lot into accessible headroom, and the Insight's extending guiding haggle seat travel would make a T-Rex agreeable in the driver's seat. Perhaps. In back, The inside offered simply enough headroom and 37.4 crawls of extra space to move around for our huge-bodied, 6'3" supervisor to ride behind somebody of equivalent size. Long excursions with enormous grown-ups should be conceivable, however maybe not palatial. Like the Civic, the inside has to some degree dainty seats, yet they don't hold back on comfort, that offers great knee space for back seat riders. The Civic has developed over progressive ages, and that is an aid for hip space for large, wide American bodies. Cunning bundling, for example, a battery in the transmission burrow close to the driver's knee, implies that the inside offers a decent measured trunk that should hold a lot of rigging. A wide trunk opening makes the space significantly more accessible to utilize. A 60-40 split collapsing back seat is standard on X and touring trim levels. Dynamic clamor wiping out in all insides endeavors to suppress outside commotions, albeit some channel into the lodge at any rate. On account of how the two-mode crossbreed framework works, we spread the powertrain above. At times the motor and by and large speed aren't in a state of harmony with the driver's correct foot. That prompted a noisier lodge that we expected at focuses around Minneapolis. Contrasted with the Toyota Prius, the inside's motor appeared to be noisier in spite of the fact that the Honda was progressively agreeable generally. Official accident test information from the feds and free analyzers recounts to a praiseworthy story for the 2019 Honda Insight. We rate it at 9 out of 10. The main thing that shields it from procuring uncommon good grades in our testing is that it comes up short on the most SOF